did we get here? To this place.
They call me the tech god, Willy Wonka. In this box, I hold the next step on the great timeline. But before I show you what's inside, I want to tell you my story.
My species is dying. My mission is to save them.
To be successful, you have to see with their eyes.
I had to become a human being.
You try to smile, maybe? Don't do that. Don't do it.
We detected a signal. It's inconceivable that tech comes from anywhere in this solar system.
They have a plan, and it's unfolding in front of us.
Do you know what this means?
It's bigger than us.
Secrets. We need to bring them to light.
They are coming for you.
This is the next step.
Get out there and make yourself a legend.
Nothing will ever be the same.
Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today we are talking to the incredible team responsible for the Showtime series, The Man Who Fell to Earth. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to the AAFCA members who are on the call today, beginning with our guest facilitator, Rhonda Rasha Penrice, who's covering for Katia Woods, who will be joining us shortly. And Rhonda is in Atlanta. We also have Sir Jones. Jones, are you in Korea, Europe, or in?
Not in Korea yet, sir. I'm still here in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Our military man who is back home for a minute before he starts his next turn of duty. We also have KB in Houston, I'm assuming, KB. We have Janine Coveney in Virginia. And we have Reginald Pounder in Chicago. And of course, we have Ray Cornelius in Atlanta, just back from San Francisco, right? We've got to talk. I'm going to let you guys do what you do so well, and I'll see you on the other side.
Hi, guys. I'm Reggie Ponder out of Chicago. And Jenny, you made me mad because
you made you mad?
Yeah, because I had to try to figure out all this stuff. I was like, what is she doing? I don't mean mad. I was like, what's going on here? And,
no, it usually takes people like a day, of knowing me for like a day before I make them mad. So I was
not that kind of man. But Shutel, you really went all in on this character. And this question is for both of you guys. After looking, portraying this character and writing it, do you guys look at human interactions any differently than how you see the aliens kind of learn and think and look at human interactions today? I mean, real human interactions. Do you be like, that doesn't make sense now? Did it change your views at all?
Shutel, I think you should go for it. Because
yeah, sure. Yeah. No, I'm happy to.
That's a really cool question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that the project was so involving, that, and, it got me really thinking, about a lot of things, because you can only carry in, I think, to a project like this, your own sense of your own internal alien, and your own kind of experiences where you felt like you were on the outside looking in. So in a way, there was a lot of kind of interiority that I had to kind of engage with, I think. And I think inevitably that sort of changes how you look at a lot of things. A lot of things came up for me, while I was doing this. And that's kind of exciting, and it's an exciting part of being an actor, and it's always kind of challenging and interesting when that happens. But I think, most definitely, when you're trying to portray a character that's really looking at humanity in this really fresh way, and then finding himself moved and engaged and slowly changed actually by humanity, it kind of inevitably lets you kind of see interactions in a slightly different way. You know, I came away from this much more positive about humanity than maybe when I went into it, which was not necessarily what I expected. But there's something so rich in the story, especially the story that centers around the family, that is that really does speak to the love and connection at the heart of the human experience. And so it was those sorts of things that I found that I carried away from the project.
Jenny, anything to add there?
Well, I have two kids. I have my tech IT 13-year-old kid in the other room, but I also have a 27-year-old son named Jacob. And when Jacob was 10, he said rather brilliantly, everybody on planet Earth is either an alien or a dinosaur, meaning that you either just got here or you've been around for. Then I started like, can you be like an old alien or a young dinosaur? We got into it, but I thought that was a really cool thing for a 10-year-old to say. So having spent a little while looking at folk from the alien versus dinosaur perspective, and I'm a dinosaur with alien children, which is like a whole other thing. Here's what human beings surprise me constantly. And in the writing of this, it did open my heart. I love me some humanity, human beings, maybe sometimes. And it opened my heart because it seemed so human. When you see the thing that you want or you see the thing that you need, usually run screaming in the other direction. And I learned that writing this show, and I learned to sort of open my heart to that when I see it in myself and I see it in other people. Does that make any sense?
It does. Thank you both for that. Appreciate it.
KB here with Through the Lens of Lady KB, and my question is for you, Chiwetel. So Faraday and Justin have such an interesting dynamic. So beyond humanity, what do you feel like is something surprising that Justin teaches Faraday over the course of this season through their very eclectic yet honest relationship? And what do you think that Faraday may teach her?
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, that's a great question. You know, I think that he learns everything from her. You know, he learns everything about the sort of human experience from her. He learns about attachments, about human attachments. He learns about kind of about letting go, about responsibility, about his own responsibilities. You know, in terms of his family. And I think that there's something in the complexity of Justin that is very rich for him, because, you know, he exists on this planet that has very kind of strict rules in a way, you know, because it's so stressed, because it's so because it's dying, and so every day is this kind of battle of life and death, and so he lives in this kind of binary way. And I think what she teaches him that he's surprised by is how to expand, in a way, how to just expand that viewpoint, you know, how to move beyond the binary, you know, how to enjoy and revel in the complexity that life offers, and that humanity are afforded, basically, because they have a planet that still supports them, that still kind of, even no matter what they do at this point, you know, that they do what they might, the planet still is engaged in supporting the life and the liberty and the freedom and the capacity to love for human beings. And I think it surprises him how much he engages with that, how much he sort of wants to have a part of that, I think. And I think in terms of what he gives her, I think she's able to reconnect to that really special part of herself, you know, that she is brilliant. She is this brilliant scientist. She's disconnected from all of that. And when they first meet, yes, I mean, everything else I've said notwithstanding, when they first meet, what he is focused on is her capacity as a scientist, her genius. And so for her to just have somebody who only sees that side of her and that side reflected and is excited and driven to engage with her on the basis of her kind of brilliant ability is something that I think just starts to ignite the fire back in her, and she begins to re-understand her own kind of capacity. And so I think that they just enrich each other really beautifully along the course of this story.
Chiwetel, just kind of bouncing off of what KB said, one of the things I loved about this show is the dynamic between yourself and Naomi Harris. What she's telling is a very heartbreaking and grounded story. And for you, while your story is kind of grounded, the character that you play is both sincere and absurd. How did you find that balance with her where your absurdity didn't kind of take people out of those moments where you all were together?
Well, luckily with Naomi, she's very, she likes to be surprised is how she describes it. She doesn't rehearse very much, like with, you don't rehearse in a group with Naomi. She likes to go off, do the research on her own, just think about and work out the character and some of the dynamics, and then come to the floor, and she just wants to be kind of engaged and surprised and very alive in the moment. And I'm kind of a little bit different. I like to do all the rehearsing stuff and the kind of, picking apart every bit of the scene and trying to sort of put it back together with everybody else, with the creatives and with the other actors, if I can get hold of them. So what it means is, when we kind of come together, it's like we have these two very different sort of styles of working, but for me, it was really enriching because it kind of constantly kept me on my toes, and I was able to then also, just sort of play against and alongside her in a way that she felt engaged by and satisfied by. So all of those scenes felt very alive to me in a way that sometimes, they don't necessarily always do with various different kind of acting partners. You kind of struggle to get there in the end, or you're finding your spontaneity. But with Naomi, what I find really exciting about her as an actress is that she brings all that kind of that life and that fire to every single day of shooting. So every scene we had to play together, I would walk towards the scene and I would genuinely just feel really excited because I wouldn't know quite what it was going to be, but I knew that it was going to be truthful. I knew that it was going to be engaging. I knew that I'd have to kind of keep on my toes, and I knew that she would respond very, very genuinely to what was going on, that she wouldn't sort of just play along with the scene to make it kind of sit well. She would really want and require a screen partner, and I think that kind of those kinds of demands and engagements, from a fellow actor are really, really rich. They're really special. Especially somebody who is, incredibly talented and able to kind of play in that dynamic. So I never felt. I just felt like our two styles really matched each other and these characters in this story. So I always felt like it was buoyant and alive in the storytelling with her.
Ray Cornelius here with Upfront Inside Atlanta's entertainment industry. This question is for Jenny, and it's sort of a second part for you, Chiwetel. Wanted to talk about the creative differences. I think this is the second television series sort of based off of the book of the same title. What were some of those liberties that you decided to run with, Jenny, when doing this particular series? And I want to talk about the fact that you use African-American actors as your lead characters versus, I believe, the first series that used white characters. And Chiwetel, talk about the fact that this alien is a Black man, which I totally loved. And I thought about Whoopi Goldberg saying that the reason why she did Star Trek was because she wanted Black people to see that there were Black people in the future. So if you can talk about those, that'd be great.
Sure. The original novel was written by Walter Tevis, the same guy who wrote Queen's Gambit. And then it became a movie, not a series, that was directed by Nicholas Roeg and starred David Bowie. But I take that back. I think there was a series that lasted about 5 minutes, Ray. I think that there was a series about 5 minutes, which I never saw. Our show takes place 45 years after the movie. So we figured that we could do almost whatever. We had a 45-year span to imagine and to play with. And we started working on this in 2018, and then COVID hit, which gave us a year to really let our imaginations go and try to work with the bravery and the curiosity that Mr. Tevis and Nicholas Roeg. And you can't really talk about the series without talking about David Bowie, because he's that unicorn. He's a unicorn, and you can't chase him, you can't follow him, but it was his essential self that made that movie sort of sing and come alive. There are three answers to the question about why Black characters. The first answer to the question, and Chiwetel's heard me say this before, but when Naomi Harris and Chiwetel Ejiofor like your script, you just say, "Thank you, Jesus," and you're done. And that's pretty much it. So that's the first answer to that question. And it's 100% true. The second answer to the question is, the first character that we could wrap our heads around as writers, Alex Kurtzman and myself, was the character of Justin Falls. I knew that Justin had to be a woman of color, because you can make the argument that women of color are the most endangered species on the planet. And to have I'm going to say, honest perspective on human beings, I think you need to get that perspective from a person who is in that position and wearing those glasses. I don't think that you would get who humans are by a person who is not afraid of losing something every day. The third, and so that was organic and integral to the story. We knew an alien wasn't going to learn something from like a 19-year-old girl named Elizabeth who goes to Spence and everything's fine. It's just not, you don't know anything. The third answer to that question is, my family's been in this business for 125 years, since the reconstruction of the United States of America. And I know that every time you see a brown face, it becomes less remarkable that there is a brown face on your screen. And that's the team that I play on. It's the team that we all play on. So that's why.
Sorry, I was gonna say something. I can't remember. I felt like there was a pause. I was like, I think that's, was it, so just about the same sort of idea of feeling, I think for me, just being involved in something like this where, it really speaks to, it's what Jenny's saying essentially, it really speaks to the heart of what inclusion is, and I love this idea of inclusion carried into all of the spaces of art and creativity, and all of the kind of areas that we relish and entertain us, engage us, but also reflect our society, and they're a clear and true analogy for where we are. And so parts of the story, talk about analogies to race, analogies to obviously the environmental issues that are experienced on Anthea. It's a direct correlation to the environmental issues that we experience on Earth. And so one of the beautiful things that I felt about this project specifically was that it engages in those sorts of dynamics. It allows for the real truth and the kind of heartbeat of what diversity and inclusion means to kind of come up to the surface, be very clear and prominent, and then also be an integral part of the storytelling. It is and becomes increasingly relevant that that Faraday presents the way that he presents, and it is important to his dynamic on Earth. As race is obviously for Justin, and those dynamics are very clear throughout the story. So I feel like all of those elements are really strong and really powerful, and really give a fuller experience. I think that having having grown up watching so much television, so much sci-fi that really represented one point of view, one kind of human being, it becomes increasingly important. I feel like it gets to a point where you almost feel the reverse is what is, obviously the reverse should be the norm, but it almost feels as if it gets to the point where the reverse is demanded, that you can't really make a show like this that talks about humanity, talks about human beings. How can you, if you don't represent the sort of the beautiful tapestry that we have on this planet? So that was something that was clearly engaging about the story. It felt really needed and necessary. And I love the fact that it was an integral part of the narrative as well. Hey, Clark.
Hello.
Hey, Clark.
I'm so sorry I'm late, really. My apologies. Where are we in the proceedings?
You were just inviting everybody over to your house.
Hold on a second. I got to go get some food.
If you want to answer why Black people, for the project, we would love for you to chime in.
Can you say, why did you use Black people for the project?
Yes.
Oh my God.
What does it bring to it? This is the question that Ray Cornelius.
I find that this is a particular point of view to even ask that question. You have to be in a particular space in your understanding of humanity as to why would you ask that question? Whether it's right or wrong, true or false, we are the people of this earth. For someone to come from another world to be here and to see someone that looks like them seems absolutely natural in my mind. So perhaps populating this story with people of color is to heighten the awareness of the observers who are not of this, who are not melanated. And it will spark debate, I would imagine, in this particular area. But for myself and for the character that I play, and for his backstory, I find that far more interesting than just somebody who looks like me coming from out of space to be here. For America to take on board this man of color whose genius was necessary is something that probably happens and does happen. Not probably, it does happen often. But is that common knowledge? No. What is common knowledge is that after the Second World War, there were a lot of Europeans who were just brought into the system, into the world of science, into the world of education, but you didn't hear about any of the people of color doing that, So my track, I love that. I love that track because of who he is, because of what he went through, and because of what he's produced. My daughter is just fantastic. I just left her, by the way, which is another reason why I'm late. But populating it with people of color, these are all of our stories, not just our stories. It's everyone's story. It's universal, and the more we have to feel that we have to ask that question indicates how little we have progressed in accepting us, in accepting the tapestry. I think I heard Chiwetel use that word, the tapestry of humanity. It's we are a coat of many colors. We are one family. We are a coat of many colors. We are one family. I think that was in the right place. Was that, did I come in right?
Thank you so much for that. Hi, I'm Janine Coveney from the Words on Flick Show podcast. And as a fan of older movies, I'm curious, Jenny, and even Chiwetel, how much the David Bowie 1976 film had an influence, because it was very much unto its time in the way that it looked, in the characters. Was that at all an influence or an inspiration in retelling the story now?
Well, in terms, if you're a fan of older movies, what I can tell you is that our first understanding of Faraday, the first thing we ever landed on, was Buster Keaton. Anyway, if you're a Buster Keaton fan, then you know what I'm talking about. But the movie was indeed very much of the moment. What I can say is this: I feel like those artists who made that movie were so brave and so open and so curious that the only thing, what we had to do to sort of to honor that spirit was to be brave and open and curious in the way we wrote. And every time we would write something that we thought was super cool and aren't we clever, we then realized it was total crap and had to throw it. It made us check ourselves in terms of, there was a real willingness to be honest. And we had to be willing to take a hard look at ourselves. And I would, thank those artists for that. And if you look at an artist like Buster Keaton, without saying a word, you see the engine. We knew that we needed the character that David Bowie plays, Thomas Jerome Newton, is essentially, once he arrives on Earth, he's essentially a passive character. He waits for, and we knew that wouldn't work for a series. So we needed the engine of Buster Keaton.
But I love the film, and the Bowie film, and I found Bowie's performance, just so kind of spellbinding. Just, he's just really iconic in the role. And I think for me, what it gave for this is, as well as a sort of fantastic jumping off point, amazing jumping off point for Antheans. I think that what Bowie communicated as well was this, obviously a kind of vulnerability. There was a sort of naivety that's in there, but there's also this kind of emotional intelligence and this curiosity and this striving for something, sometimes thwarted, sometimes engaged, but but there is a kind of, there's a passion there, underneath it all, sometimes quite muted. And I like that he set that tone for Antheans, and Antheans can be a number of different things. They can be as different as me and David Bowie, but there's something underneath them all that he sort of starts, I think, that he starts the conversation of in that film. And that's something I was engaged with, sort of tapping into, I think.
Just wanted to ask, what is the real assignment here in all of you guys' eyes, for particularly Jenny, for the overview of you as a creator of this, for Chiwetel and Clark, from your characters? What is the real assignment in this series?
That's a really interesting question. It's also a really interesting phrase, and I feel like it's going to echo differently with everybody. So I can answer for myself. The real assignment is always to be as honest as possible. There are a lot of political messages in this series that one can you can draw them out. That wasn't what I was writing about. I wanted to write about a Black family, and I wanted to do that as bravely as I've ever done anything. And that was my assignment for me. And I don't know if that answers your question, but it's the only answer that I got.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you say that, because I think that that's somewhere connected to what I was thinking as well. That it's but for me the assignment is, and it's almost more kind of poignant in this, because it's sort of the ingenious and creative utilization of what we know to be the absolute truth. And that, I think, is what the show really, I think it's what it really goes for. And it goes for the heart of that. It goes for the heart of that with all of the characters, all of the dynamics, all of the circumstances that they're in. You know, what it is talking about is something deeply truthful, deeply honest, that anybody who watches it can engage with and recognize.
I think you hit it right on the head there, Chiwetel. It was about the truth that I felt was the mission. The questions that oppose to humanity are questions that humanity really needs to take a look at. We need to take a good look in the mirror at who we are, what we do with this earth that we live on. And for me, it is about, I guess that's what it is. It's about the earth. This is where we're from. This is what serves us. This is what supports us. This is what we breathe. This is what we eat. We are it. We eat food. It turns into us. I think that the other side of that as well, the area that I'd like to explore as well is that the other sources of energy, just to keep that buoyant, just to keep those thoughts buoyant, you know, I think is what we're doing here as well, to pass on the baton that there is energy right here, you know, that this isn't this isn't just someone's imagination. That's science. That is science. That's the way it is, you know. And so, at this late age in my life, I can't realize those things, but I can tell a story that'll pass those notions on to someone younger, with hopes that they might be inspired to follow through on what someone else's imagination is seeing. I think that was the mission. I think that was the mission. That was the mission for me to. And we talked a lot about these truths and about these different dimensions of or different perceptions of thought. And I love the journey of having something, losing it, and then having it again, you know, and then losing it again, and the journey of having this great intellect and having this man give it back to you, you know, and then losing it again. What does that leave the person with? What does that leave the person with? You know, he's not suicidal after that, you know, so there must be something that's deeper, that is of value, that isn't being stated. I don't know what it is, but all of that inspired, made me want to do this, all of that. Yeah, thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Alex. Really, really, that's
You're welcome.
That's me.
Reggie Ponder again. Jenny, I'm always interested in Black love, and I want to see it on the screen at all times and any time. And in this one, you show a family that is deeply loved, from the kid to the dad, which Clark plays, to Naomi's character. But then when you look on the opposite end, you see that there doesn't seem to be a lot of love with the white family. Was that intentional? What were you trying to say something there? I'm just interested in the dynamics of that. If Clark and Chiwetel like to add in, that'd be fine as well.
There are two answers to that question. The first answer is, I like to see Black love on television too. And if you think of a woman like the character of Justin, a woman like Naomi, and what for a woman to sacrifice that much of herself. And I always think, look, I'm a single mother, and every single day you're tired. And there's one of my favorite lines in it is, and also what's very important is that Naomi has a friendship with a woman named Portia, who is also a Black woman. And it thrills me to see Black female friendships on television that aren't about men or that aren't about whatever. And Portia says, every woman I know, I don't recognize myself either. Every woman I know is tired. Justin's exhausted. And so that woman who has given up so much would put it into her family. And she is the strength of a family like that. She is the strongest link in that chain. So it's everything is character-based. If it's not character-based, then I don't know what I'm doing. If I'm not doing that, if it's not based in character, then I'm completely full of shit. And I'm somebody who thinks I'm clever. And nobody needs anybody else who thinks they're clever in Hollywood, because you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a clever person. It's enough to make you want to leave the room. I totally got so pissed off talking about that I forgot the question. Can you ask it again?
See, you got into that. The question was really about Black love. I said how I saw this tremendous.
Oh, right, in the other family.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's the thing. A family that would think about, here is an other, and we must embrace him because it's too dangerous for him out there, would be a solid and beautiful family. A family where that would not necessarily would be the first priority would, in its character and in its essential self, be a wildly dysfunctional family. We were lucky enough to get Sonny Cassidy and Rob Delaney, who are extraordinary actors. This family was a white family. They're a family who have been at the tippy top apex. They've been apex predators for 50 years. So it is organic that they would be a white family, because those are who the apex predators are on this planet. I'm gonna get in big fucking trouble. I'm never gonna work again. Oh, well, too late. So all this stuff comes from a place. Bye guys, it's lovely to meet you all. All this stuff comes from a place of, we couldn't write it any other way because it wouldn't be honest. True. And I think, look, it's this murderer's row of actors. I'm not an actor, but I know acting when I see it. And these folk are no joke. And I'm going to cross my fingers. And when I say, I don't think this is wrong, that they would not have responded to a grueling COVID shoot on 2 countries if the scripts were full of shit. I'm gonna cross my fingers that that's not patting myself on the back at all. It's patting them on the back for going through a lot.
On that point of Black love, if I may, what I love about this is showing the generations of love. You know, my daughter is the pillar in that family, but she could have only been the pillar in that family if she had a pillar to emulate. And so what we rarely see is how in our community, how the generations pass on those values subliminally without throwing it down your throat, you know? We look after grandma. I can't take my grandma and stick her in the old folks' home.
That's so funny. Clark, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It just made me think of something which is that I live with my mom, who's 84, and I live with my daughter, who's 14. And every night I braid my daughter's hair, and then I run downstairs and I braid my mother's hair, and that's just me, like, but it's just a braid. It's just
yes, yeah, and that rarely happens in other communities in America. I have to say that it's like that in more so in America than in some other countries whose culture has been built around love, respect, certain traditions that have gone on for centuries and generations. You know, what is lovely about this is I love my granddaughter. You know, And not only do I love my granddaughter, I love that little actress. I love that little actress and playing with her and watching her think. And she's smart and she asks the right questions. You know, this is love. This is that's the love. That's the love. And I think that when we started playing with each other before we even hit the set, we knew that there was love in the room. We didn't have to talk about it, you know, and we come from two different cultures. We come from two different cultures, but we are the same peoples, you know?
Well, you know, it's interesting that you say that, because I was thinking you and I seem to be answering from an African-American perspective, but Chiwetel is not African-American and neither is Naomi. So it might be a different, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, yes. And we are speaking from this perspective, but I can tell you that from, you know, for Naomi, you know, the love in the family is as well something that she was brought, that she came through, that supported her to be who she is now. And so it was sort of easy to lock into that, you know, to resonate with that. And hopefully with resonating in the right frequency, those right frequencies tend to resonate to the observer, so that they feel it. And hopefully, you know, that illustration of love in the family, you know, I made sure that my granddaughter was seeing plait in my hair. Do you remember that? Right?
Yes.
We had to put that in, you know, yeah. Because that's something you don't see. But I just know that because of the length of my hair, my grandchildren love to play in it, you know. I don't wear a do-rag all the time, but I will around my house, you know. You know, but Ron, to that point, you know, it was necessary to really for us to show that love, you know, in this environment. You know, we could not be a dysfunctional family and be as successful with this mission in any other way. It was a love that brought everything, that brought everyone and everything through. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I'd just say that I was the same. You know, I just found that kind of the love, the connection of the family to be just the sort of heartbeat, you know, of the whole project. You know, and to come at that as from the perspective of Faraday, you know, he couldn't but be affected, you know, by what he's seeing and by what he's involved in, and it felt very authentic and it felt true. And you know, but I would say as well that I think all of the families are treated in the show with a lot of empathy, you know, that it's that there's a strong sense of people who are not allowed love, who are not allowed to connect, you know, and the show sort of deals with what the fallout of that can be, you know, and how people try to secure those dynamics, either from a parent or a sibling, or, you know, and I think that there's something about the nature of finances, the nature of capitalism, the nature of having to cut off certain things in order to achieve other things, and what a kind of vicious system we have, and what the human cost of that system can be. And I think that that's something that's really dealt with a lot of empathy in the show. And so all of the characters, I think, have a journey in this, have a journey and learn about themselves and learn about love through the story. And that's, you know, that's a really connected part of it.
Chiwetel, Clark, and Jenny, thank you for your time today. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black critics, thank you for watching this episode of AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.